the pure imaginary I into the negative power. So let's say in general, if we have a I, imaginary pure I in the power p, where p is 2n minus 1, n is equal to 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3. In other words, n is element of negative integers, including and 0. So let's go with some example to make it more concrete. So we have a I in minus 5. If we have a I in minus 5 here, we can write this as a 1 over I in a 5, in a positive value here. And now this one we can multiply by, because whenever we have a odd, the pi, if it's a odd, so we already have the imaginary I, pure imaginary. But if it's a even, if p is even, then we are going to have the real number. So the reason here is I'm multiplying just by I. The reason is I want this to make an even power. And if I make an even power, it means then this has to be a real number. And if we are multiplying by I both sides, so this one is making it with the even power, is going to be I in a 6. And let me write here I in a 6. And on the top here, I times 1 is a I. So now I in the 6, we can write as a, let me write here, since I have a space, I in I divided by I in a 4, in exponent 4, times I in exponent 2. So this is what we can write. And since I am here now, I is now I is divided by I in a 4. Whenever the exponent here is divisible by 4, it means is equal with 1 time. And when we have a I squared, we already know this is a minus 1. So this is a minus 1. And now what we have here to do, and 1 times minus 1 is minus 1, but I divided by minus 1 is minus I. So the final result here is minus I. So this minus I we can already graph or sketch into the complex plan. So we got minus I. But now I in the power minus 23, what we can do here with this case? This one, let's say we can write with the I 1 divided by I in exponent 23. We can use this property of the exponents. And then this one here is odd. We already know this, we have to make even the denominator. When the denominator is even, we can rationalize the denominator here. So now in this case, we multiply here by I. Just by I, we don't need to take any other number so to make even. And we already know I in 1. In I23, we can add the exponents according to the properties of the exponents. And this is going to be I in 24. So let me write here I in 24. And on the top of this fraction, we can write 1 times I is I. But this I in the 24, we can write like we already know I in 24. And 24 is divisible by 4. Because 24 divided by 4 is a 6. And because it's divisible, here is going to be 1. So everything here, I divided by 1 is I. So this is a positive. So as we see here, sometimes, for example, when we have a negative power with an odd, and we want to evaluate, when we want to evaluate is always going to be minus I or I. But if we have an even, it's not a big problem if we have an even, because when we are going down here, then we are going to get a real number. So it's going to be -1 or +1, depend on the even power.